This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the DailyFX Forum.
So here are the four pairs that I will be discussing this evening: the Euro Pound, the Aussie Kiwi, the Pound Swiss, and the Euro Swiss. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. The first chart is the Euro Pound. If you recall, during the past several reports, I've been mentioning this temporary resistance line, and again, it's a little thin in my opinion, but prices got within a few pips here and then sold off a little. But right now, I really don't see any favorable risk-reward entries right now, unless prices do return back to that line, which is about right now the 91.50 area. So I'd just be on the sidelines on this pair until that does occur. If it does occur over the next 24 to 48 hours, we might look to enter on the short side with a stop, maybe 30 to 40 pips above the line. The next chart is the Aussie Kiwi, and the rally continues here in this pair. Temporary, we've face some temporary resistance here just above that 128 figure, but again, these entries down here, if you're still in this trade, I would continue to stay in the trade, and again, place a stop just beneath the low of this candle here. Personally, I did not enter. I can't find any good risk reward entries. I do see prices heading to 120 to the 129 figure at the very least, but again, I don't see anything favorable here. What I might look for over the next 24 hours is to see if we can get a daily close above that 28, let's call it 28.20 area, and then enter on the long side. But until, or also I've added this temporary support line as well, daily support line, and we might look for prices to come down and test this. That would also be a favorable risk reward entry. But aside from those two scenarios, I really don't see anything in terms of a imminent entry for this pair. The next chart is the Pound Swiss, and again, this is just the inverse of the Euro Pound. I did mention during the last report, I did like these long wicks down here, and prices have rallied a little bit, but again, I don't see anything favorable in terms of risk to reward entry here, favorable risk to reward entry, so I would just be on the sidelines, and again, wait for that short trade on the Euro Pound rather than the long trade here on the Pound Swiss, as they are inversely correlated. The next chart is the Euro Swiss, and again, I am on the sidelines on this pair, and we could see, I'm mentioning this over the last several reports. The upside here capped at about 51.30, and the downside just above that 150 figure, but prices are still directly in the middle of the range. So again, no favorable setups at this point. We might just wait for prices to head up towards resistance or towards support respectively. The last chart is the Euro Aussie, and again, it's the same story here, and I do apologize for that, but that's going to happen every once in a while in terms of, you know, no imminent trade setups, but that's okay. That's part of trading, to just sit on the sidelines and wait for things to set up, you know, for those good entries, because we don't want to force anything, and I don't enter trades just to enter them, as you can tell in this case. I did mention yesterday how we might look for prices to test the opposite side of this previous support line. That didn't occur during yesterday's session. I also mentioned that in my mind's eye, I do see prices heading back down to just beneath that 161 figure. That is what is happening, but again, I can't find anything, any favorable point to enter that trade, but that is what I'm looking for, and at that point, as prices do approach that 161 figure, I would be looking for a long trade, again, to kind of form at least a temporary inverse head and shoulder pattern here. And again, all we can ask for these levels is that they act as temporary resistance or temporary support. So I do see the, let's call it the 60-80 area, at least acting as short-term support if prices come down to that level over the next 24 to 48 hours. Again, my name is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the DailyFX forums. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the DailyFX forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner, I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections, and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something, you know, catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as DailyFX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, you know, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I I tend to, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things with the right mind in terms of I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's my personal way of using the forum. Every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on how to use the forum and how different traders can use it, in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there. You'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register, the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.